she's actually wearing white after fucking him all year? My mother-in-law's whisper sliced through the bridal suite like a blade dipped in poison. I froze, mascara wand halfway to my face, watching her reflection in the vanity mirror. She was hunched over her phone with my sister Emma, both of them smirking at something on the screen. My wedding dress hung behind them, like a ghost of the future I thought I was walking into. "Delete that before she sees it," Emma hissed, but she was laughing. My maid of honor, my sister, the person who'd helped me pick this dress, plan this day, choose the flowers that now seemed to mock me from every surface. Marcus will kill us if she finds out before... Before what? My hand trembled as I set down the mascara. The hairstylist working on my updo must have felt the shift in my body because her hand stilled. In the mirror, I caught her exchange a look with the makeup artist. They knew. Everyone in this room knew something I didn't. That's when I saw it. Marcus's phone, forgotten on the vanity, between tubes of lipstick and false lashes. The screen lit up with a text notification. "Emma, can't wait to finally what?" My fingers moved without conscious thought. His passcode was his birthday, October 15th, 10:15. The same combination he'd used since college, because he was too sentimental to change it. The phone unlocked and I opened the message thread. The most recent text, sent 30 minutes ago while I was getting my hair done. "Can't wait to finally stop pretending after today. Once you say I do, we can start our real life. She'll be destroyed, but that's what she deserves for stealing you from me." Stealing him? I scrolled up, my perfectly manicured nails, French tips for the bride, clicking against the screen. 6 months of messages unfurled before me, like a scroll of betrayal written in digital ink. Last night was incredible. Thank God Lily had her bachelorette party. "I love how you moan my name, so different from how you say hers. The wedding night will be torture. Just think of me when you're with her. After the honeymoon, we tell her, or maybe we wait until she's pregnant. That would destroy her more." Pregnant. They were planning to let me get pregnant with his child before revealing their affair. My stomach turned, but I kept reading, unable to look away. From the car crash of my life. There were photos. Emma in the lingerie I'd helped her pick for her date, with the fake boyfriend she'd been seeing. Marcus in our bed, shirtless and smiling at the camera. Screenshots of their hotel reservations. On days I'd been traveling for work, a shared Pinterest board titled Our Real Future, filled with engagement rings and wedding venues. "Lily, sweetie, you okay?" The makeup artist's voice seemed to come from underwater. "You've gone pale." I looked up at my reflection. The woman staring back at me wasn't the blushing bride I'd been 5 minutes ago. Her eyes were clear, cold, calculating. She looked like someone who'd just died and been reborn in the space between heartbeats. "I'm perfect," I heard myself say. My voice was steady, even pleasant. Just wedding jitters. I screenshotted everything, every message, every photo, every cruel plan they'd made while I was building our future. Then I did something that surprised even me. I forwarded the entire conversation to my email, my lawyer's email, and a locked cloud folder I'd created for my business documents. Old habits from protecting my company assets, now protecting something far more valuable, my dignity. The door burst open. Marcus stumbled in, tux half-buttoned, hair still messy from what I now knew wasn't a quick gym session this morning. "Baby," he crossed to me in 3 strides, pressing a kiss to my temple. He smelled like Emma's perfume, the expensive one I'd bought her for Christmas. How had I never noticed before? You look absolutely stunning. I can't wait to call you my wife. I murmured, turning my face so his next kiss landed on my cheek instead of my lips. Speaking of which, where's your phone? The photographer wants to get some shots of our morning texts to each other. You know, for the wedding video. His face went white. My phone? I think I left it in the car. No, silly. I held it up, watching his pupils dilate with panic. It's right here. You left it on my vanity. Emma's been texting you. The room went silent. Even the photographer, who'd just walked in, seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere. Emma stood frozen by the door, her bridesmaid bouquet trembling in her hands. Oh? Marcus's voice cracked. What did she say? I smiled, the same smile I used in boardrooms when I was about to close a $1 million deal. Just checking on timeline things. You know Emma, always the planner. The relief on both their faces was almost comical. They actually thought they'd gotten away with it, that I was still the naive, trusting Lily, who believed in forever and happy endings and the sacred bond between sisters. 2 hours until showtime, I announced brightly. Everyone out except my beauty team. I need to finish getting ready for my big day. As they filed out, Emma squeezed my shoulder. Love you, sis. Today's going to be perfect. Yes, I agreed, meeting her eyes in the mirror. It really is. When the door closed, I made 3 decisions that would reshape the next 6 hours and the rest of my life. First, the show would go on, but not the one they'd scripted. Second, I would not cry, not one single tear, until I was ready to water the seeds of my new life with them. And third, by the time this day ended, everyone would know exactly who Lily Chen really was. Not the grateful second choice, not the plain sister who should be thankful for whatever scraps of love fell her way, but the woman who'd built an empire while they'd been building their house of lies. I picked up my phone and opened my contacts. Time to rewrite this story. Jessica, I said when my lawyer answered. It's Lily. I need you to do something for me, and I need it done in the next 2 hours. Yes, I know it's my wedding day. That's exactly why I'm calling. The veil felt heavier now, weighted with secrets. But I'd worn heavier crowns in conference rooms where men twice my age had tried to destroy me. This was just another hostile takeover, and I'd never lost one of those. While Jessica worked her legal magic, I sat in that bridal suite, surrounded by the artifacts of a life built on lies, and let myself remember. Memory is a funny thing. It reshapes itself based on what you know now. Every moment with Emma and Marcus looked different through the lens of betrayal. Emma had always been the sun in our family's solar system, and the rest of us were just planets caught in her gravity. She was born beautiful in that effortless way that made people stop and stare. Honey blonde hair that fell in natural waves, eyes the color of sage and sea glass, a laugh that made everyone want to be part of her joke. I came 2 years later with our father's sharp features and our grandmother's serious eyes. Lily's the smart one, Mom would say, as if intelligence was a consolation prize for not being beautiful. By the time Emma hit high school, she'd already been scouted by 3 modeling agencies. I was president of the debate team, which no one cared about. She dated the quarterback, I dated books. When college acceptance letters came, Emma got into USC on a partial cheerleading scholarship. I got into MIT with a full academic ride. Guess which achievement made it into the Christmas card? MIT is so far away, Mom had sighed, and so intense. Are you sure you wouldn't be happier somewhere closer? Somewhere more social? Somewhere more like Emma, she meant. Somewhere I could continue my supporting role in the Emma show, instead of writing my own story 3,000 miles away. But I went anyway. And that's where I met Marcus. He was a TA in my advanced algorithms class, 5 years older, with kind eyes and a crooked smile that made my stomach flip. He was the first person who saw me, really saw me, not as Emma's lesser sister, but as Lily. Brilliant, funny, worth knowing Lily. We studied together, which turned into coffee, which turned into dinner, which turned into love. Or what I thought was love. I can't wait to meet your family, he'd said after 6 months of dating. You talk about your sister like she hung the moon. I should have heard the warning in my own words. Should have noticed how I'd painted Emma as this larger-than-life figure, this unattainable goddess. Should have realized I was essentially holding up a sign that said, "Here's the upgrade model." The first meeting was at Thanksgiving. I'd been so proud bringing home this handsome, accomplished man. My person. My proof that I was worthy of being chosen too. Emma had answered the door in a dress that cost more than my laptop, fresh from a photo shoot, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. I watched Marcus's face change. Everyone's face changed when they saw Emma for the first time. But I told myself his was just surprise, not the hunger I'd later learned to recognize. So you're the famous Marcus, Emma had purred, and yes, she actually purred. Lily's told us so much about you, though she didn't mention how handsome you are. Lily, you've been holding out on us. The hug lasted too long. Her hand on his arm lingered, but I pushed down the discomfort because this was Emma. She was tactile with everyone. That's just how she was. Friendly, warm, not calculating, never calculating. Dinner was a masterclass in systematic erasure. Every story I told got redirected to Emma. My internship at Google became a launching pad for Emma to talk about her modeling contract with a tech company. My senior thesis on machine learning became background noise to Emma's story about dating a professor who worked in AI. Lily's always been the brains of the family, Dad said, attempting to throw me a bone. Emma got the looks, Lily got the smarts. Why not both? Marcus had asked, and I'd been grateful, thinking he was defending me. Now I wonder if he was already comparing shopping. After dinner, I found them on the porch. Emma was showing him her portfolio on her phone. Bodies angled close, her laugh tinkling like wind chimes in the November air. Your sister's amazing, Marcus said when we drove away. I mean, your whole family is great, but Emma's really something special. Yeah, I'd agreed, swallowing the lump in my throat. She always has been. That became our pattern. Every family event, every holiday, every birthday. Emma at the center, Marcus in her orbit, me watching from the periphery. I became an expert at pretending not to notice. The lingering looks, the inside jokes that sprouted from nowhere. The way he'd light up when she entered a room, a brightness I'd thought was reserved for me. You're so lucky Marcus chose you, Mom said last Christmas, after a few too many glasses of wine. I mean, Emma could have had him if she'd wanted. She had that basketball player pursuing her at the time, remember? What was his name? The tall one with the Tesla? Marcus had been in the room. He'd heard every word, and he'd said nothing. Neither had I. Because somewhere along the way, I'd internalized this truth. I was lucky. Lucky to be chosen. Lucky to be loved. Lucky that someone like Marcus would overlook the crime of not being Emma and settle for me. Settling. The word tastes bitter now, but that's what they both thought he was doing, wasn't it? Emma, the prize he couldn't have. Me, the participation trophy he took home instead. What they didn't know, what I'd never told anyone except my lawyer and my business partner, was that while they were playing their games of want and desire and delayed gratification, I was building something they couldn't even imagine. "You're the only one who knows about the company," I said to Jessica on the phone now, touching up my lipstick with steady hands. "The only one who knows what I'm really worth." "Not the only one for long," Jessica replied. "I've got the paperwork ready. Are you sure about this?" I thought about all the dinners where my achievements went unmentioned. All the family photos where I was pushed to the edge, barely in frame. All the times I'd made myself smaller so Emma's light could shine brighter. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said, "because here's what happens when you spend your whole life in the shadows. You learn to see in the dark. You develop night vision. You notice things others miss because they're too blinded by the spotlight to pay attention. Emma thought she was stealing something that belonged to me. But you can't steal what was never yours. And Marcus? He was never mine. He was just a man who thought he was trading up, not realizing he'd already fumbled the actual prize. They thought they knew who I was, the grateful second choice, the plain sister who should be thankful for scraps of attention. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one you never bothered to really see. The hairstylist was fixing my veil when I made the decision that changed everything. Not the decision to go through with the wedding. That was just tactics. The real decision was this. I was done being the supporting character in my own story. "Can you give me a moment alone?" I asked the beauty team. "I need to center myself before everything." They filed out, leaving me with the ghost of the woman I'd been an hour ago. I picked up Marcus's phone again, needing to see one particular message thread. 3 weeks ago, when I'd been in Singapore closing the deal that would change my life. "Emma. She has no idea how successful you're going to be. That little consulting job of hers is cute, but you're building an empire." Marcus. "Her little job pays most of our bills right now." Emma. "Not for long. Once your startup takes off and we're together, you won't need her money. We'll have everything." Marcus. "I just need her to invest the $50K first. She thinks it's for our future." Emma. "God, you're bad. I love it." Marcus. "After the wedding, I'll have access to everything. Joint accounts, remember?" Emma. "The prenup." Marcus. "She didn't want one. Said it was unromantic. Your sister really is too trusting." I set the phone down and laughed. Actually laughed. The sound startled me. It wasn't bitter or broken. It was the laugh of someone who had just discovered the punchline to a joke everyone else had missed. Unromantic? I'd suggested a prenup 3 times. Marcus had been the one to argue against it, saying it showed I didn't trust him. The truth was simpler. I'd already protected everything that mattered. My company wasn't in my name. It was held by an LLC that owned another LLC that was managed by a trust. Corporate structure designed to minimize taxes had accidentally become the perfect shield against gold-digging fiancés. The little consulting job that Emma dismissed so easily? Cheris Tech Solutions, 32 employees across 3 countries, 2 patents pending, a client list that included 3 Fortune 500 companies, and as of last week, an acquisition offer from Microsoft that valued us at $4.2 million. I'd built it all while they'd been building their castle of lies. Late nights they thought I was working too hard for pennies. I was negotiating contracts worth more than Marcus would see in a lifetime. While Emma was posting Instagram stories about being a boss babe, selling discount codes for protein shakes, I was quietly revolutionizing data analytics for healthcare systems. My phone buzzed. Jessica again. Just reviewed the messages you sent. This changes everything. The marriage license? Still unsigned, I texted back. I told the officiant I wanted to sign it privately after the ceremony. Romantic, right? Brilliant. And the announcement? I smiled, thinking of the press release sitting in my drafts. The one announcing Cheristech's acquisition, with my name and photo prominently featured as founder and CEO. The one scheduled to go live on every major business newswire Monday morning. Ready to go, but I have a better idea for the reception. Another text, this time from my CFO, David. Saw your SOS. What do you need? David knew. My head of operations, Sarah, knew. My international team knew who I was. The only people who didn't were the ones who claimed to love me most. Champagne delivery, I typed. The Cristal. The cases we bought to celebrate the Microsoft deal. Deliver them to the reception. Gift from the bride to her guests. All 20 cases? All 20, and David, wear your best suit. I had 90 minutes until I walked down that aisle. 90 minutes to finish orchestrating the most elegant destruction of two lives that had been built on the ruins of mine. I called the videographer next, sweet Tommy, who'd been so excited to work my wedding because he'd been following Cheristech's journey since I gave a TEDx talk 2 years ago. Another thing my family had missed because it conflicted with Emma's birthday weekend in Vegas. Tommy, slight change in plans for the reception video. Then the caterer, who owed me a favor after I'd helped her daughter get an internship at Google. The band leader, whose startup I'd angel invested in last year. The florist, who'd become a friend during the hundreds of events I'd organized for my company. One by one, I called in. Favors and friendships built in the life my family knew nothing about. Each person reacted the same way. Shock, then anger on my behalf, then a delicious anticipation to be part of what came next. You're really going through with the ceremony? Sarah asked when I called her. Walking down the aisle to a man who's been sleeping with your sister? Oh, I'm walking down that aisle, I confirmed, checking my makeup one last time. But it's not for him, it's for me. Do you know how much I spent on this wedding? The budget was $80,000. $80,000 for one day. Do you know what I could have done with that money? The scholarships I could have funded, the businesses I could have seeded. So why? Because they think this is my pinnacle, my greatest achievement, marrying Marcus Chen, mid-level product manager with delusions of grandeur. They think this is the best I could do, the most I could hope for. So I'm going to give them exactly what they expect, a wedding they'll never forget. I stood, smoothing my dress, Vera Wang, custom fitted, a dream in silk and lace that had cost more than most people's cars. Emma had gasped when she saw the price tag. Lily, that's insane. You could buy a nice used car for that. Or, I'd replied, I could buy a memory. She'd thought I meant a happy memory. She was half right. My reflections smiled back at me. Not the nervous bride who'd sat down at this vanity 2 hours ago, but someone else entirely. Someone who'd been forged in the fire of being overlooked and emerged as something they'd never expected. unbreakable. A knock at the door. Lily, my mother's voice, hesitant. "It's time, sweetheart. Everyone's waiting." Time, yes, it was time. Time to stop pretending I was grateful for scraps. Time to show them who they'd been underestimating all these years. Time to teach them that the most expensive lessons are the ones you never see coming. I opened the door. Mom stood there in her mother-of-the-bride dress, beaming. "Oh, honey, you look beautiful. Marcus is so lucky." "No, Mom," I said, taking her arm. "Lucky doesn't even begin to cover it." As we walked toward the stairs that would lead to the ceremony space, to the gathered crowd, to Marcus and Emma, and their shared delusion that they'd won, I thought about a quote from Sun Tzu I'd learned in business school. "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." They thought they were my enemies. They were wrong. They were just obstacles. And I'd spent my entire career turning obstacles into opportunities. "Betrayal is a gift," I whispered to myself as the wedding march began to play. "It shows you exactly who people are, and once you know that, you can give them exactly what they deserve." The aisle stretched before me like a runway, and maybe that's what it was. My debut as the person I'd always been, but never shown. 200 faces turned to watch me walk, their smiles as fake as the love waiting for me at the altar. Marcus stood there looking like every Pinterest board's dream groom, his face a masterpiece of false emotion. Next to him, his best man, who'd covered for him during at least 6 of his work trips, kept shooting nervous glances at Emma. And Emma herself, my maid of honor, clutching my bouquet like it was an Oscar she'd won for Best Supporting Actress in a Betrayal. But I wasn't looking at them. I was remembering 3 years ago. My first major client meeting. I'd been terrified, sitting in a conference room that cost more to rent for an hour than I made in a month. Across from me sat the CTO of MedTech Global, a woman who could make or break my fledgling company with a single decision. "Why should we trust you?" she'd asked. "You're nobody, no track record, no big names behind you, just another consultant with a laptop and a dream." I'd taken a breath, thought of all the times I'd been nobody. Nobody compared to Emma, nobody worth Marcus's full attention, nobody worth celebrating, and said, because nobody has nothing to lose and everything to prove. And nobody works harder than someone who's tired of being nobody. I got the contract, a small one, just $30,000, but it was the first domino. That project led to another, then another. While Marcus was coming home, complaining about his boss not recognizing his genius, I was quietly building relationships with executives who valued results over rhetoric. The growth was exponential but invisible, at least to my family. I worked nights, weekends, every moment Marcus thought I was obsessing over spreadsheets again. He'd roll his eyes when I took calls during dinner, sigh dramatically when I flew to conferences he assumed were networking waste. "You work too hard for too little," he'd say, usually while playing video games on the couch I'd bought. "When my startup takes off, you can finally relax. Maybe do something fun, like Emma's lifestyle blog." Emma's lifestyle blog. 20,000 followers who watched her document her journey to authentic living, while wearing clothes she couldn't afford and pretending her studio apartment was a loft. She'd even done a post about supporting your sister's small business dreams, with a photo of my business card, the old one, from when I was still using my apartment as an office. But while she was hashtagging I'm a girl boss and entrepreneur life, I was signing NDAs with companies whose names she dropped at parties to sound important. While she was posting motivational quotes over sunset photos, I was pulling all-nighters to deliver projects that would revolutionize how hospitals managed patient data. The real turning point came 18 months ago, Singapore. The conference Marcus thought was another waste of money. I'd met David there, brilliant, connected David, who took one look at my presentation and said, "You're sitting on a gold mine and you don't even know it." He was right. I'd been thinking too small, playing too safe. Under his mentorship, Caristech transformed from a consulting firm to a software company. We hired developers, built proprietary systems, filed patents. The company grew in silence, a secret garden I tended while everyone thought I was playing in the dirt. "You never talk about work anymore," Mom had noticed last Thanksgiving. "Emma shares everything about her brand partnerships. Why are you so secretive?" "Nothing to share," I'd said, carving turkey, while mentally calculating runway for our Series A. Same old, same old. The truth was, I'd learned that silence was safety. Every achievement I'd shared had been diminished compared to Emma's latest thing, or credited to Marcus's influence. So I stopped sharing. I built my empire in the spaces between their assumptions, in the hours they thought I was wasting, in the ambition they never believed I possessed. Last month, when the Microsoft offer came through, I'd been sitting at dinner with my family. My phone lit up with the email that would change everything, and I'd excused myself to read it in the bathroom, sitting on the closed toilet seat, hand over my mouth to keep from screaming with joy. "Everything okay?" Marcus had asked when I returned. "You look flushed." "Just work stuff," I'd said, and he'd already been turning back to Emma, who was describing her latest sponsored post opportunity. Now, halfway down the aisle, I caught sight of David in the third row. He wasn't supposed to be here. I'd never invited my work life to my personal one. But there he sat, looking like James Bond in his Tom Ford suit, giving me the slightest nod. Sarah was 2 rows behind him, wearing the red dress I'd told her made her look like a CEO. Tommy, the videographer, tracked my movement with more than professional interest, his assistant already setting up equipment I hadn't ordered. The pieces were in place. My real life, the one I'd built in shadows and silence, was about to collide with the facade everyone thought was my reality. I reached the altar. Marcus took my hands, his palms sweaty. Up close, I could see the guilt in his eyes warring with anticipation. He thought he was about to win. The good sister's stability and the bad sister's passion. The investor and the lover. The wife and the mistress. "You look beautiful," he whispered, loud enough for the microphone to catch. "I know," I whispered back, and watched confusion flicker across his face. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Lily and Marcus." Union. What a perfect word for what was about to happen. Not the union they expected, but something far more satisfying. The union of truth and consequences. As the officiant droned on about love and commitment, I thought about every meeting taken in airport lounges, every contract negotiated over bad coffee, every line of code reviewed at 3 a.m. All of it led to this moment, not a wedding, but an unveiling. "Lily," the officiant's voice brought me back. "Your vows?" I'd written vows, of course, beautiful ones about trust and partnership and building a future together. They were in my pocket, folded neat and perfect and utterly useless now. I looked at Marcus, then at Emma, then at the crowd of people who thought they knew my worth. I had vows prepared, I began, my voice clear and strong. But I realized this morning that vows are just promises, and promises are only as good as the people who make them. Marcus's grip on my hands tightened. Warning or plea, I didn't care. So instead of promises, I thought I'd share some truths. After all, isn't honesty the foundation of any good marriage? The first truth, I continued, my voice carrying across the silent garden, is that success looks different for everyone. For some, it's a white dress and a wedding day. For others, it's the email they get at family dinner telling them their company just sold for $4.2 million. A ripple went through the crowd. I saw my mother's mouth fall open, my father lean forward. Marcus's hands went rigid in mine. "What are you talking about?" he whispered, but the microphone caught it, amplified his panic across 200 guests. "The second truth," I said, still calm, still smiling, "is that we all wear masks. Marcus, for instance, wears the mask of a devoted fiancé. It's a beautiful mask, so convincing that you'd never guess he's been sleeping with my sister Emma for the past 6 months. The garden erupted, gasps, chairs scraping, Emma's bouquet hitting the ground with a soft thud. But I wasn't done. This wasn't about chaos, it was about clarity. The third truth. "Stop!" Emma's voice cracked like a whip. She lunged forward, grabbing for the microphone. "She's lying. She's having some kind of breakdown. The stress of the wedding." "The stress of discovering your texts this morning?" I asked pleasantly. "Can't wait to finally stop pretending after today." "That was poetic, Emma, really. You went through my phone?" Marcus dropped my hands like they burned. "You violated my privacy?" I laughed, actually laughed at the altar of my own wedding. "No, darling, you left it on my vanity, right next to the lipstick I was using to make myself beautiful for you. Though apparently I needn't have bothered. According to your messages, Emma's lips taste better anyway." That's when the universe decided to add its own flourish to my symphony of revelation. "Oh my God!" The voice came from the middle of the crowd. Marcus's cousin, a teenager who'd been live streaming the ceremony on Instagram. "Oh my God, you guys have to see this." On the projection screen we'd set up for the reception, the one Tommy had quietly repositioned during the ceremony, Emma's phone screen appeared in 5-foot glory. She must have tried to check it during the chaos, accidentally casting to the wrong device. And there, in crystal clear resolution, was her text conversation with someone saved as M. Marcus with a ring emoji. The most recent message, sent 30 seconds ago, code red, she knows, meet me at the car in 5. But it was the message thread that destroyed them. Not just evidence of the affair, but their cruel commentary on everything. My appearance, at least she'll look decent in the wedding photos for once. My family, her parents already like me better. My career, her little business will be perfect for write-offs. My worth, she's grateful enough that she'll never leave. "Turn it off," Emma screamed, fumbling with her phone. "Turn it off." But technology, like truth, has its own momentum. The screen cycled through more messages, photos, plans. The crowd watched in horrified fascination as 6 months of deception played out in real time. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "They planned the honeymoon hookups. Look at the date on that hotel receipt. That's her birthday weekend." Did she really call her own sister desperately plain? I stood perfectly still in my Vera Wang dress, a calm island in a sea of chaos. This was better than anything I could have orchestrated. Emma and Marcus were destroying themselves, and all I'd had to do was tell the truth and let technology take its course. "Lily," my father's voice cut through the noise. He'd left his seat, was walking toward me with tears in his eyes. "Lily, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. We should have seen." "No," I said gently. "You saw what you wanted to see. We all did." Marcus tried one last play. "Baby, please, it didn't mean anything. It was just what?" I tilted my head, genuinely curious. "Just sex? Just 6 months of planning to humiliate me? Just stealing the $50,000 you thought I'd invest in your startup?" More gasps. His face went white. "Oh, you didn't think I knew about that? Marcus, sweetheart, I've run a multi-million-dollar company for 3 years. You really think I don't read contracts, check references, do due diligence? Your startup doesn't exist. Your co-founder told me everything when I called him last month." "You called?" "Of course I called. I was about to invest $50,000. Did you think I'd just hand it over because you asked nicely? Because I'm too trusting?" "No, Marcus, I'm not too trusting. I'm just very good at letting people show me who they are." The projection screen finally went dark. Emma had managed to disconnect her phone, but the damage was done. 200 witnesses to their cruelty, their deception, their fundamental misunderstanding of who they'd tried to destroy. "I need to ask everyone to remain seated," I announced, raising my voice. "There's something else." David stood up on cue, pulling out a champagne bottle, not the cheap stuff we'd ordered for the toast, but the Cristal from my office. 20 cases of it were being wheeled in by the catering staff. "You see," I continued, "this was supposed to be a celebration of a union, and it still is, just not the union you expected. Tomorrow morning, the business news will announce the acquisition of Cheris Tech Solutions by Microsoft, my company, built while everyone thought I was playing with spreadsheets." I looked directly at my mother. "Remember when you said I was lucky Marcus chose me? You were wrong. I chose myself. Every late night, every missed party, every sacrifice you thought was desperate, I was choosing myself." Then to Emma, "You called it my little consulting job. You posted about supporting your sister's small business dreams. Well, sis, dream bigger." Finally, to Marcus, "You wanted access to my accounts, my future, my worth. Congratulations. Now you know exactly what you'll never have." Security appeared, discreet, professional, hired that morning. "Mr. Chen, Ms. Chen, will escort you out." "This is insane," Emma shrieked. "You can't kick us out of your wedding." "You're right," I agreed. "I can't kick you out of my wedding. Good thing this isn't a wedding anymore. It's a celebration of independence, and you're not invited to that." As security led them away, Marcus still sputtering about lawsuits, Emma crying perfectly photogenic tears, I turned back to the crowd. "For those who'd like to stay, we have a reception planned. The food is excellent, the champagne is exceptional, and the entertainment is already over. For those who feel uncomfortable, I understand. The valet has been instructed to bring your cars immediately." Nobody moved. Well, almost nobody. Marcus's family slunk out, unable to meet anyone's eyes. But my family, my friends, the vendors who'd become allies, they stayed. "To the bride," someone shouted, raising a glass that had appeared as if by magic. "No," I corrected, taking my own glass. "To the CEO." The toast that followed wasn't for love or marriage or happily ever after. It was for the woman who'd been underestimated, overlooked, and betrayed, and who'd turned all of it into rocket fuel for her rise. The reception transformed into something unprecedented. A divorce party without a marriage, a celebration of freedom that hadn't existed an hour ago. I moved through the crowd like a queen who'd just peacefully overthrown her own kingdom, accepting congratulations and condolences with equal grace. "The marriage license," Judge Harrison approached me quietly. He'd been a family friend, honored to officiate. "You never signed it." "No," I confirmed, sipping champagne that tasted like victory. "And I never will. Can't divorce someone you never married." He studied me with a new respect. "You knew. This whole time you knew." "I knew this morning. Everything else, that was just good business practice. Never put all your assets in one basket, Judge. You taught me that when I was 12, and you were explaining your investment portfolio at Thanksgiving." The details had been meticulous. The venue, paid by my company as a client entertainment expense. The catering corporate event write-off, the dress purchased by my personal shopping LLC. Even the honeymoon tickets were in my name alone, fully refundable. Marcus's name appeared on exactly nothing except the useless marriage license. "Lily?" Sarah materialized at my elbow with an iPad. "The announcement is ready to go live, but Reuters wants an exclusive comment about the acquisition." I looked around the reception, my employees mingling with my family, finally seeing each other. My mother deep in conversation with David, probably learning more about her daughter in 5 minutes than she had in 5 years. My father studying the Tech logo on the champagne labels with wonder. Tell Reuters this. Tech Solutions has always been about transforming hidden potential into visible results. This acquisition by Microsoft simply makes that mission possible on a global scale. And the personal angle they know about. Sarah gestured at the wedding dress. "No comment on personal matters. The story is the company, not the drama." But the drama found its own outlets. Within an hour, the cousins' Instagram Live had gone viral. Wedding from Hell was trending. Someone had screen recorded Emma's phone casting disaster. The internet, that great equalizer, was having a field day, with 2 photogenic cheaters getting exposed in 4K resolution. My phone buzzed with texts I didn't read. Emma, Marcus, their families, mutual friends. Everyone had something to say, but I was done listening to their narratives. Ms. Chen, the venue coordinator, approached hesitantly. "There's a situation. Mr. Chen and your sister are refusing to leave the parking lot. They're demanding to speak with you." I considered this. The old Lily would have felt obligated to hear them out, to provide closure, to somehow make this easier for everyone. But I wasn't her anymore. "Tell them they can speak to my lawyer, Jessica Chen, no relation, of Morrison, Bach and Associates. She'll be handling all communication going forward." "All communication? But they're my past," I corrected gently, "and I'm very focused on my future." At sunset, I made my exit, not dramatically, not tearfully, but with the quiet confidence of someone who'd already won. I'd changed out of the wedding dress into the outfit I'd packed that morning, a sharp business suit that cost more than Emma's entire wardrobe. My real clothes, my real self. "Where are you going?" Mom caught me at the door. Her eyes were red. From tears or champagne, I couldn't tell. "Singapore. I have a meeting Monday to finalize the Microsoft transition. My flight leaves in 3 hours. But we need to talk about everything, about how we failed you." "We'll talk," I promised, meaning it. "When I get back, when you've had time to think about who I really am versus who you wanted me to be. She pulled me into a hug, the first real one in years. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Not for the company or the money, for standing up there and telling the truth, for being stronger than any of us knew. The car I'd ordered, not a limo, but a discreet black Tesla, waited outside. As I slid inside, I saw Marcus's Honda in the parking lot, Emma's blonde hair visible in the passenger seat. They were still there, still waiting, still not understanding that their parts in my story were over. Airport? The driver asked. One stop first. We drove to my real home, not the apartment Marcus thought I lived in, but the penthouse I'd bought 6 months ago. The one with a view of the city I'd conquered while everyone thought I was failing. I grabbed my real luggage, already packed with business clothes instead of honeymoon dresses, and the documents for Monday's meeting. On the kitchen counter, I left 2 envelopes, one for Emma containing the deed to the loft she'd always wanted, the one I'd bought and was now gifting to her. Not from kindness, but from strategy. She'd have to pay the property taxes, the HOA fees, the maintenance costs she couldn't afford. A golden cage that would drain her Instagram-perfect lifestyle within a year. The second envelope was for Marcus. Inside, a single document, the employment verifications I'd requested from his company. The one showing he'd been fired 2 weeks ago for misuse of company resources. Something about using the corporate card for hotel rooms. He'd been unemployed while planning to steal my money, lying about a startup that never existed, building his future on foundations of sand. I added a sticky note. Since you were so interested in my assets, I thought you should know. I've been aware of your unemployment since it happened. Your CEO golfs with my CFO, small world. Good luck with your job search. I hear honesty really helps with interviews. Back in the car, heading to the airport and my real life, I finally allowed myself to feel the weight of the day. Not sadness, that would come later, in quiet moments when I mourned the sister I'd thought I had and the love I'd thought was real. But for now, I felt something else, free. My phone rang. Jessica. Just got off the phone with their lawyer, she said without preamble. They're threatening emotional distress lawsuits. On what grounds? Public humiliation, defamation, intentional infliction of... Jessica, I interrupted. Did I lie about anything? Did I falsify any evidence? Did I do anything except tell the truth and let their own actions speak? No, you were surgically perfect. They don't have a case. Then let them threaten. Let them rage. Let them exhaust themselves, fighting shadows while I build empires. The city lights blurred past the window. Somewhere in this city, Emma and Marcus were probably still in that parking lot, still believing they deserved explanations, apologies, another chance to manipulate the narrative. They'd learn eventually that when you burn bridges, sometimes the person on the other side has already built a plane. You know what the best part is? I asked Jessica. What's that? They still think this was about revenge. They'll spend years analyzing today, trying to figure out how I planned it all, how long I've known, how I orchestrated their downfall. They'll never understand the truth, which is, I didn't plan any of this. I just chose myself, protected myself, and let them reveal themselves. Their destruction was entirely self-inflicted. I just refused to cushion their fall. By the time my plane lifted off, I'd already moved on, because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, and indifference, it turns out, is the most elegant exit of all. 6 months later, I stood in the Singapore office that had become my second home, watching the sun set over Marina Bay. The Microsoft integration was complete. Caristech's technology was being implemented in hospitals across 3 continents. Lives were being saved by systems I'd built, while everyone thought I was wasting my potential. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Saw the Forbes article. The photo of you is beautiful. You look happy." I was on the cover of Forbes 30 Under 30. From wedding disaster to tech wonder, how Lily Chen turned personal betrayal into professional triumph. They'd wanted the salacious details, of course. Everyone did. But I'd given them something better. A story about resilience, about building something meaningful, while others built castles in the sand. The interviewer had asked, "Do you ever speak to your sister or ex-fiancé?" "No," I'd answered simply. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your absence. And it was true. I'd heard things, of course. The startup community is small, and gossip travels at fiber optic speed. Marcus had tried to launch 3 different ventures, burning through friends' investments each time. His reputation preceded him now, the guy who got publicly exposed for planning to defraud his bride. Funny how the internet never forgets. Emma's fall had been more gradual but equally complete. The lifestyle blog hemorrhaged followers after the wedding video went viral. Brands dropped her. The loft I'd gifted her had become an albatross. She'd tried to sell it but couldn't afford the capital gains tax. Last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a gym, posting motivational quotes about rising from the ashes to her remaining 1,000 followers. They'd tried to contact me naturally, first with anger, then bargaining, then desperate apologies. Marcus had even shown up at my office once, convinced he could talk his way back into my life, or at least my bank account. Security had his photo now. He wouldn't make it past the lobby again. "You destroyed us," he'd screamed as they escorted him out. "You destroyed our lives." But that was the thing he never understood. I didn't destroy anything. I simply stopped being the foundation they'd built their lives on. Without my silent support, my willingness to be less so, they could seem like more. They collapsed under the weight of their own mediocrity. A knock on my office door interrupted my thoughts. David entered with 2 glasses and a bottle of champagne. Not Cristal this time, but something even better. Dom Perignon, vintage year. "Thought we should toast," he said. "The acquisition is officially complete. You're now the youngest executive director in Microsoft's history." We clinked glasses, watching the city lights flicker to life below us. "Any regrets?" he asked. It was the question everyone danced around, but rarely asked directly. I considered it. Regrets about the wedding? No, that had been liberation disguised as disaster. Regrets about loving Marcus? No. You can't regret something that taught you exactly how much you're worth. Regrets about Emma? I regret that she was so busy competing with me that she never realized we were never in the same race, I said finally. I was trying to build a life. She was trying to steal one. My phone buzzed again. This time an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, "Please read from someone who understands." It was from a woman named Catherine. She'd seen the Forbes article, recognized something in my story. Her husband had left her for her best friend. She'd been destroyed, thought her life was over, but my story had inspired her to stop mourning and start building. She'd enrolled in coding boot camp at 45, started a support group for women in tech, turned her pain into purpose. "Your story saved me," she wrote. "Not because you got revenge, but because you got free." I received dozens of emails like that. Women who'd been the lesser sister, the safe choice, the second option. Women who'd spent so long being grateful for scraps that they'd forgotten they deserved the whole feast. They saw themselves in my story, not in the dramatic wedding reveal, but in the quiet years of building something while being dismissed. That's when I understood the real impact of that day. It wasn't about Emma and Marcus. They were footnotes now, cautionary tales about the price of underestimating someone. It was about the echo, how one woman standing up and saying "I choose myself" could ripple out and inspire others to do the same. I started a scholarship fund with part of the Microsoft money, full rides for young women in STEM who'd been told they were just not as naturally gifted as their brothers or boyfriends or prettier sisters. The Lily Chen Foundation for Invisible Excellence. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is see someone who's used to being overlooked. The first recipient sent me a letter. "Thank you for showing me that the best revenge isn't breaking someone else down. It's building yourself up so high that their opinion becomes irrelevant." She got it. They all got it. Success isn't about proving your worth to people who should have seen it all along. It's about finally seeing it yourself. And once you do, once you realize that you were never the consolation prize, never the second choice, never the lucky to be chosen one, that's when you become dangerous. Not because you seek to destroy those who wronged you, but because you become so focused on building your empire that you forget they exist. The sun had set completely now, Singapore glittering below like a circuit board. Somewhere on the other side of the world, two people who thought they'd won were learning that stealing someone else's life doesn't mean you know how to build your own. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about tomorrow's board meeting, next week's product launch, next year's expansion into Europe. I was thinking about the girls who would see my story and realize they didn't have to shrink themselves to make others feel bigger. Because here's the truth they never tell you about revenge. The best kind doesn't require you to lift a finger. You just have to lift yourself. And when you rise high enough, the people who tried to hold you down become invisible from the view at the top. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or betrayed by those who should have valued you most, then you understand that true power comes from transformation, not retaliation. Follow Refined Revenge for more stories of elegant justice, where dignity triumphs over drama and success becomes the ultimate response to those who doubted you, because your worth was never determined by their inability to see it. Subscribe now and remember, the most refined revenge is a life so well lived that betrayal becomes the catalyst for your becoming. Refined Revenge, where success meets satisfaction.